Like a vampire, I don't need to know you. Come with me, I'll show you. You can find me backstage, I'm a party with a Nicolas Cage. Girl, I want the body, you know you got a body like Nicolas Cage. You ain't gotta be scared, you ain't gotta be afraid, baby. It's just you and me alone tonight with Nicolas Cage. Not the bees, not the bees, not the bees.
Last time on Late Night Cage Fight. After Season 1 winner Birdie left the Cagefighters bewildered, Season 2 snuck up on them like a deadly bird flu virus that isn't real. Or is it? Season 2 opened with a fierce win from fan favorite Raising Arizona over time-traveling trash fire Peggy Sue Got Married. After that, Vampire's Kiss struck a sure win against Moonstruck, because there's only one thing scarier than vampires and Cher: Italians. Later, Wild at Heart would send Time to Kill right back to Ethiopia, because there's only one thing scarier than a David Lynch movie with mommy issues: Italians. Zandalee beat Firebirds because we had to pick a movie. Finally, racially sensitive comedy Amos and Andrew took home the Golden Honey against Honeymoon in Vegas. And our Cagelord tonight is Zach Walsh from A Cry for Help podcast, an experimental comedy project in which two best friends explore the world through the lens of their mental illness. Find A Cry for Help podcast on Spotify and Spreaker.com. And now, introducing our Cagefighters. Cagefighter Reese will represent Wild at Heart. Cagefighter Steve will represent Amos and Andrew. Cagefighter Sean will represent Vampire's Kiss. Cagefighter Matt will represent Raising Arizona. And we brought back Cagefighter Kevin from the dead to represent Zandalee. Only one winner can enter our B Cage of Fame. Who shall inherit the glory? Let the cage fight begin.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're joining us again, Kevin. It's been so long since we've heard your beautiful voice, and I'm super pumped to hear how you're going to defend this excellent Nicolas Cage film tonight, Zandalee.
You missed so much.
I'm so happy to be here in the basement, watching you guys with me. Yeah, this is neat.
Looks like a beautiful basement.
Yeah, it's real colorful.
Yeah.
Is that a couch? Perhaps?
It is. It's part of a sectional.
Impressive.
The sexy part. Ha ha ha.
Did you have a group of guys carry that into the house with you?
I carried it with a guy.
Pretty buff.
Surprising.
Wow. It looks really heavy.
I'm really strong. I'm really strong.
Always been a strong boy. Always been a real strong boy.
Yeah, you'd be really surprised. I'm really, really strong.
Like a horse.
I was pretty surprised. I think we've wrestled before.
With a horse?
No, I mean me and Kevin.
I've seen that happen. That's a good time.
I'd wrestle.
Yeah.
Good show.
Go ahead, introduce all of your movies and stuff like that. I want to make sure I got a real good feel for them.
Were you fine, Cagelord Zack? Were you fine with my intro?
Oh, most certainly.
You do have the ability to do punishments if you want to punish Reese for his intro.
Or just
Understood.
in general.
I'll keep that in my back pocket.
Yeah, thanks, Sean, for that.
run some laps or yeah.
Matt, did you want to go next?
Yeah, sure.
All right,
So
let's hear it.
it's me, Matt, here representing Raising Arizona. Fine film. A super decent film. A really well done film. The Coen brothers. They know how to use people, and this is one of those rare gems where you get to see Nicolas Cage accidentally be very good at acting. You don't get to see it a lot, and it's probably the first time that it ever happened. So, this film is a treasure just based on that. And honestly, I'm really not that worried about my competition this evening. We've got some, we've got some bangers out there. We've got some real good shit watchers. We got some swing and a misses out there. But I do wish everybody good luck. Godspeed to you, and go fuck yourselves.
Harsh words.
I'll allow it.
Thank you. And may it please the court.
All right, who's up next? Kevin needs to be last.
He needs time to prepare.
Forgive me for interrupting.
So I'm Cagefighter Sean, and I am representing Vampire's Kiss.
The prop work
Wait.
that get points for that.
Thank you.
With it being Halloween season, I think this is probably the most fitting movie within this batch. I mean, what can you really say about Vampire's Kiss? It's responsible for some of the most iconic Cage moments in the entire Cageverse. I really strongly think that I can convince you that Vampire's Kiss should be the one film here allowed into the Cage Hall of Fame.
Understood. Thank you for your time.
So I'm representing Amos and Andrew. It's a fantastic movie that's honestly better than all the rest of them. And what makes it better is that you don't even know it. And you've heard of most of the rest of these movies, and so it's old news. But Amos and Andrew is a breath of fresh air that's just as relevant now as it was then.
Now, what year was that?
These were all early 1980s.
Early 80s. Okay.
Yeah, all of these films. But Amos and Andrew tops the charts as being the most innovative and the most effective to its audience.
Respect.
So, bridging both history, present time at that time, and future of our current time.
Bold claims.
Yikes.
It's a movie that transcends time.
Yeah. Even more than The Land Before Time.
Which is even funnier when you know what that
Watch
movie's
it.
about. Oh, Kevin, I'm so happy you're here.
Yeah,
I
me
hope
too.
everything's good with you.
You look so beautiful.
You do. Did you get a haircut or?
Yeah, I get a couple a year.
That's good. That's good. You probably
Did
need
you?
one of those. I did not actually. I've been trying to grow it out.
You look great.
I think it looks nice. Whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I tried combing it.
Did you like the film that you watched today, Kevin? Zandalee?
Yeah. Yes, I did very much. Yeah,
Cool. Great intro. We're off to a great start.
I needed a good porn, and that was just what I needed. So it'd been a while, so yeah, it was great. It was a great surprise. I'm glad you had me in mind when you were thinking of
Yeah.
something for me to watch.
Of course.
Now,
I
I'm
knew
going to be
that would
honest.
the one. I'm sorry.
I have not seen any of the films that you are representing.
Oh,
I have Raising
really?
Arizona on DVD. I have not gotten around to watching it. So this is really this is going to determine what I'll watch next. You know.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to have to take your word on it for a lot of these.
Good.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So we've done our introductions. We know who is representing which film. And I say now we move on to our opening statements, which is going to be up to you, Cagelord Zack, to choose who will make their opening statement when. And this is going to be kind of a longer piece. More time will be allotted for the cage fighter to speak. So I will let you have it.
Understood. I'm going to go ahead and say whose birthday are we the closest to among all of you?
Well, I'm before Reese.
I'm February.
I'm October 5th.
October. All right, great. So you go ahead. You start. Happy birthday.
Thank you. So it's often said that there's a thin line between comedy and tragedy. Nowhere is this more true than with Vampire's Kiss. While we do love and worship Cage, it's safe to say that we poke fun at him quite a bit on this podcast. There's an inherent ironic enjoyment to many of Cage's performance, and there's nowhere truer than in this film. As a black comedy, Vampire's Kiss tackles a lot of dark subject matter such as mental illness, wage disparity, sexual assault, violence. Due to Cage's bombastic performance, this is truly one of his best performances, I would add, but it lets us look at these dark topics with a bit of a lighter tone. While you may have not seen the film, if you frequent the web, you've definitely seen some of Cage's moments because they've surfaced as memes and other viral images across the net. This movie definitely is one of Cage's most outrageous and iconic performances and has some of his, I would argue, best Cage outs. Whether it's Nick constantly abusing his assistant Alva with verbal insults, going to the store to buy vampire teeth to end up walking away with a cheap plastic pear like you'd find at a Halloween store, or turning his couch in his apartment upside down to be used as a coffin. This movie is just ridiculous. I mean, Cage, there's a scene where he runs down the street yelling, "I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!" He randomly yells the entire alphabet in one of his Cage outs. There's a bat in his apartment at one point, and he just goes, "Shoot! Shoot! Shoot!" And there's also his iconic, "Am I getting through to you, Alva?" This movie's just quotable as hell. And beyond the wild performance, there's also fascinating trivia in the movie, like the fact that there were real life homeless people that appear in the movie without their consent. Just walking down the street, just filming homeless people, and Cage walking around all bloody looking crazy. I've already said that this is the perfect movie for the Halloween season, and I just think it makes sense for it to win since we're doing this in October. But at the end of the day, there's a thin line between comedy and drama. This really exemplifies Cage himself as a person. He's done a lot of great roles, and he's been in a lot of famous movies, but he's faced a lot of hardship in his life. He's gone broke. The IRS has come after him. He's bought a lot of ridiculous stuff just to, make it so the government couldn't come after him. his career's been in the toilet, but he came back. He started doing great movies like Mandy and Color Out of Space and the upcoming Jiu-Jitsu. Cage falls and rises like the phoenix.
And you feel this movie represents that?
I do.
Fair.
A dark comedy, just like Cage's life. Just like Vampire's Kiss.
Okay. Respect.
Thank you.
He is getting a lot of time. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, that was
should I have been timing this?
No, it's fine. It's fine. We'll let it go.
Okay.
But,
I'm sorry, I
just
didn't
felt like-
realize there were time constraints on opening statements.
Well, we want to try to keep it to 3 to 5 minutes. It's just more the fact that Cage Fighter Sean seemed to be performing very well, and I didn't like that.
I understand. And I respect the competitive spirit that you bring to this. Why don't you go next?
Thank you. Excellent. So, as you know, I'm representing Wild at Heart. It's a 1990 film, and it's unquestionably the best of all of these films. First off, it's one of Cage's first roles of the 90s, and it's the role that Nicolas Cage himself says steered him away from method acting. It's a classic David Lynch masterpiece with heavy metal music, graphic violence. Cage being Cage, he gets to be himself in this, I think even more than Vampire's Kiss, but forgive me for straying. There's bizarre flashbacks, all of your typical David Lynch stuff in it. There's weird Wizard of Oz shit. Willem Dafoe is in this movie, and spoilers, he blows his own head off with a shotgun. It's amazing. Something I didn't know, and I just learned recently, Wild at Heart actually won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival.
Ooh.
So there's high praise there. Diane Ladd won an Oscar for her role. Nick Cage does his own singing in this movie. Of course,
Is it a musical?
It's not a musical, but there are some musical elements.
Okay.
Yeah. After filming, Cage, who wears a badass jacket, it's actually a snakeskin jacket, he gave it to Laura Dern, his co-star, and the moment Laura Dern, the moment she puts that up on eBay, man, I'm grabbing it. It's gonna be mine. Wild at Heart is weird, it's funny, it's sad, it's scary, it's all of these things exactly when it needs to be in the movie. And it, like I said, undoubtedly should be our winner. There's a whole lot more I should say, but I'm trying to save some of my other arguments for when I get attacked by the other...
Respect.
The other beasts here.
All right, groovy. Who should go next?
So what truly makes a great film? Is it the action, the adventure, the exploitation of women and minorities? Throughout the Cageology, we've had reviewed... So far, both on screen and off screen, Cage has repeatedly subjugated women and oppressed minorities. In the first movie we've seen so far, we finally witnessed his side of Cage we've yet to see. Compassion for someone other than himself. Yes, throughout...
Seriously? Are you seriously going with this argument?
Let him hang himself.
Though Cage acted throughout the movie mostly out of his own self-interest, he could have taken a much easier way out. While this movie was backdropped in a comical atmosphere, the topics that it covered are still very relevant today, and specifically this year. The marches of the Black Liberation Army mirror those of modern-day Black Lives Matter movements, and the interesting diversion that the Black Lives Matter movements also includes this non-white following as well. Cage also portrays a character in this movie that I would call a hero in villain's clothing. This differs from movies like Time to Kill, where he was very much the opposite. Or movies like Valley Girl, where he was clearly just the villain. Cage was brought in to do a dirty deed to rid this community of a black scourge that had infested it, and instead decided to help him. The supporting cast in this movie was also fantastic at their roles. Donnie was a personal favorite of mine, amplifying the essence of small community ignorance, while characters like the white power couple displayed their blind, arrogant ignorance that's still displayed in many upper-class suburban communities. And the role of Samuel in this movie was beyond superb. The only Samuel movie I've seen where he wasn't his typical cynical and bitter character. However, you could see some of its development throughout this film. And on the topic of Samuel L. Jackson, prior to this movie, he didn't have a lot of starring roles or even larger roles in movies, but shortly after this film, starred in Pulp Fiction. I'm not going to say this movie is the sole reason, but if you were a fan of Pulp Fiction, it might not have happened without Amos and Andrew. I'll end my argument with this. I don't know that this movie can truly win the heart of Cage fans across the land as the greatest Cage movie of all time, but I can say it is a movie that holds relevance today and should be definitely included in the movies that Cage that are worth watching. After all, it's not Cotton Club.
Well, that was a very interesting thing to choose to say. Who
wants to follow that up?
Your Honor, if I may, and I'll keep this brief and vague as you have not seen the films, and I don't wish to waste your time as have
Thank you.
my fellow cohorts this evening so far. First, let me begin by asking a simple question. Why do we watch movies? What's it for? Well, we want to be entertained, do we not? Do we not want to dive into the mind of another? Well, my movie is the only safe option for that in this crowd. For you to truly delve into the character and understand them as a person. There are several characters like that in this film. People are people. Not everybody is just a cardboard cutout of a character. And also, this movie is done by the Coen brothers, two of America's treasured storytellers. Two men who know how to use people, how to take people's actual characteristics and meld them into the character as opposed to forcing people into characters. And also, that's it.
Okay.
I'm
All
gonna
right.
leave it right there.
Okay. I appreciate the brevity. Now, would you like to finish us off?
Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I watched Zandalee, and
I'm sorry. You guess you watched it?
I watched it, and I will say from the get-go, it was right into the when I first saw right away that this was going to be rated R and it was going to be strong nudity, sexual content, all that stuff. So I thought, okay, well, typical Nick Cage. So from the beginning, started out pretty good. Like I said before, it was kind of like a porn, but like a good soft porn. I was into it at first, and then probably about two-thirds of the way through the movie, it kind of took a turn, and it kind of had a little bit of everything in it, and there were some parts that were that disgusted me a little bit. But at the same time, it just had me on the edge of my seat. It was able to control my emotion in that way. I mean, I got to see, which unfortunately was rape, which definitely got my emotions going. I then later I saw some suffering in a way of how emotions can be tortured by actions, and then later in a roundabout way, a homicide. So there was a lot of ways that this was really entertaining, and went from one way to the other. I mean, it started out good. I guess, in my opinion, sometimes it's a little bit better to end that way, but we can't control the ending, and it just sort of had that order. And so here I am, a little hyped up because I watched it, but I feel very deep because of it, and ready for the fight. So
Yeah.
that's all I have to say about that.
What an exceptionally vague thing to say. Great. So we've got assault and racism. This is going to be a real fun conversation from the two of you guys.
Yes.
Cool.
So now is the time where each cage fighter takes the stand. And what we will do is we each will have to defend our movie against attacks from others through questioning.
Now,
So-
am I allowed to question as well?
Absolutely, at
And
any
okay.
time.
To any direction.
Then let's go in the order that we introduced ourselves in.
Okay. So that
So
means
Vampire's
Sean.
Kiss being up first. Now, I'm going to be honest. You completely had me until the abuse of homeless people tidbit. That was a weird left turn to kind of throw at me. Like I was like, oh, this sounds really cool. And then you're like, also, and they just messed with some actual homeless people, and I was like, hey, yikes. So yeah, what say you? Try to win me back on your side a bit here.
I wouldn't go as far as saying that they messed with homeless people. There's a scene towards the end of the movie where Cage is, after committing a homicide, he's walking down the street all bloody and disheveled, and is kind of just rambling to himself like a crazy person, and walks by a couple people, and they just so happen to be real-life homeless people. So really, they were just passerbys.
Objection.
Okay. Oh, please.
I feel like you're leaving out some of the details here. He jumped at them. He tried to jump the homeless people, and they were scared for their lives.
Your Honor,
That
if I may add, Your Honor,
Of course.
they were exploited.
yes.
They were not paid. They were not compensated.
No, this is unavoidable. This is yes.
technically criminal. That's a misdemeanor, if I might add, Your Honor. That's all.
Well, I'd just like to add that, in film, in cinema, on the Internet Movie Database, there are often many unaccredited roles within films, many unpaid. And, Cage himself has a few uncredited roles himself that we haven't covered, but uncredited nonetheless. And I think this just shows what a down-to-earth and pious individual that Cage himself is.
Sean, I'm having a hard time understanding you. Can you put your teeth back in? Please. Thanks.
You're winning me back with the
Thanks.
teeth. I'll be
Much
honest.
better. Much better.
They really help you enunciate.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cagelord Zack, may I pose a question?
Of course.
You mentioned in your opening statement that Vampire's Kiss kind of balances two different tones. We like it in an ironic way because of how bad it is, but it seemed like you were also trying to make this argument that it's somehow Cage acting well. And that's what I want to hone in on. Do you believe that there is good acting specifically from Cage in Vampire's Kiss, or is it all just something that we can laugh at? Because if so, then this is just a silly movie. Why should this goofy movie with a bunch of memes be the winner of the season?
I would say that Cage himself is at his best when he's portraying some sort of mental illness or mental instability. I would actually say that I think his acting is pretty decent in this movie just because he does such ridiculous things and makes it believable. You really can feel that he believes he's a vampire, and, he really thinks that Alva should find that file, and he really believes that, once she finds that file, it's too late. he really believes that when he's trying to assault Alva, that if she shoots him with the gun that he gives her, that he won't die. And I think that at its core is what acting is about.
Okay. Interesting ending there. Yes.
So my question is, in this movie, he believes that he becomes a vampire after having intercourse with a young black woman, and then later in the movie decides to assault his Latino assistant. Can you please explain to me how he differs from Time to Kill, where he does the same thing with an Ethiopian?
Well, first of all, he's not Italian in this movie.
That's your argument?
So
I rest my case.
That's about it.
could you speak to, I suppose, the memeability of this film? Is that a pro or a con in your eyes?
I would say that it is a pro. I mean, there are a lot of quote-unquote bad movies that are just bad, and then there are some that are entertaining. And I would argue that this movie borders on The Room level of being entertaining.
Okay. And you think, does that reflect positively on Nicolas Cage? Is that what you're trying to imply? Or, because The Room, no one thinks kindly on Tommy Wiseau.
Yes and no. I mean, I do think that this is Cage in his purest form. I think this movie encompasses all of his strengths from some of his best performances. I think this is just, it's Cage uncaged. They give him the freedom to do with the role what he will. I'm not sure if that was, the director's intent. I think I remember reading that it was not the writer's intent.
Now, do you know who wrote or directed this off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head. I'd have to verify. Yeah, I don't recall it being anybody too notable. I might.
For the sake of time, I'd like to make a suggestion. For each cage fighter on the stand, I'd like to suggest 2 questions aloud from other cage fighters, and then 1 from the Cagelord, or more if he so chooses, but just for the sake of time so we can get through all these movies.
Absolutely. Then let's progress to yours then, my friend.
What is my movie, everybody? Wild at Heart. What do you guys want to know, I guess? Ask me anything. I'm the expert, right?
An interesting start.
Is this, I have a question for you, my friend, my good friend.
Good. I wanted a question from you,
Yes.
Matt. Not that it matters.
Yeah. Well, first of all, nothing matters. I think we all know that. But
I'll take that.
I want you to tell me whether this movie actually has a plot. And if it does, is it not just a fuck you?
It is a movie, I think, with a very simple plot expressed in an artistic way in order for you to have your own experience with it, separate from everyone else. It is expressed through trauma, symbolism. There are scenes of fire. I see Steve smiling because he was the one who enlightened me to that. But I'm totally going with that. I definitely think that it's a simple story with artistic elements to kind of trip you up. I don't think it is a middle finger, Matt. I think it's also representative of the time period when people just wanted to, they wanted to be punk rock, they wanted to be metal, they wanted to leave the 80s behind and see what was next in the 90s. It was a very relevant film for the time, and it also allowed David Lynch to just be David Lynch and do some weird and wild and crazy things. So, no, I don't think that the plot is necessarily easy to grasp, maybe with one viewing, but it's not so out there that there isn't one.
Now, you said this was a rather prestigious movie, right?
Yes. Well, it depends on the critic, but yes.
Oh, so it was more divisive. Can you speak to that?
Well, it did win, like I said, the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, and it did win an Oscar, one of the actresses. But I will admit that Roger Ebert expressed that he did not think that it should have won, and he did not care for the film.
I agree.
But that being said, Roger Ebert, we know that he hasn't all opinion of films hasn't always been the consensus. So
Fair.
And I do
So-
respect his criticism, by the way. So
But so you would say you view it in a positive light then, just to be clear?
yes, I do. I think it's one of those films that Roger Ebert just it was out of his element at that time because of how kind of ahead of its time it was. So if you take, for example, well, there's another film, Cotton Club, which we all agree is a very difficult film to watch for us now. I believe Roger Ebert loved it. He gave it high praise. It was a Francis Ford Coppola film. And I mean, now I know there's a new revival to try to bring it back with new footage, but nobody's really heard of it. Nobody's seen it. It's not as lasting. It's a musical, by the way. I don't know if you've seen it, Cagelord Zack. Right. But it was meant to have this lasting appeal like, Grease or something like that, with the musical elements. And the fact remains that it just didn't have that appeal, that legacy.
Fair. Okay. And now on to the next film.
Lord, do you think that it's fair to let him just pretend like he knows exactly what Roger Ebert thinks? And I mean, Roger Ebert isn't here to defend himself. So
That's true. That's true. That is a very good point.
I do have one final question for Reese in terms of this movie.
Is it going to be about racism or sexual assault or something like that?
Quite possibly.
Are you afraid? Why are you
Why
afraid?
are you scared? Are you unable to answer the question?
No,
something to
I'm
hide?
sorry.
It's actually about the pacing of the movie. Do you believe that the extreme climax within the first 5 minutes of the movie, where he brutally murdered a black man, was the
I'm done.
was the entire highlight of the movie? And do you agree that it was akin to basically a drug addiction, where the entire movie began with almost a high dosage of some sort of drug, and then a repeated, how can I say, maintaining of that high throughout the movie, where you never quite hit that peak, and then as you slowly come down, you end up with these small fire-induced peaks with the
Responding to Cagefighter Steve, Your Honor, Cagelord Zack.
Yes.
Cagefighter Steve has this tendency where he'll say something completely out of left field that is not grounded in any kind of reality that I know. But
Well,
then,
does the movie
Sounds like you're
start
challenging
that
my
way?
integrity here.
It does. It
does.
does.
Okay, listen. Yes, the movie does start with a scene where Nicolas Cage kills an assailant who is trying to kill him first.
I'm
This,
fairly certain he completely caved in his head
Oh God.
With his fist.
with his fist.
But Your Honor, this man had a knife and had already tried to thrust it at Nicolas Cage. He had been hired by his girlfriend's mom. And that's what starts this entire film, this crazy plot, right? Begins with the sequence. And in defense, he kills this guy. And the character is established early on that he's a criminal and he's on parole and he can't go back to jail. But really, it's in defense, and I think that the racial part of it is completely irrelevant. There is no, it doesn't mean anything at all.
Okay, cool. Two semi-problematic movies. Who's next to tell me about how their movie is problematic?
Cagefighter Zack, I would like to pose a question to Cagefighter Reese.
Sure.
If I may. So, it's well known that the second season of David Lynch's, arguably his most famous work, Twin Peaks, he only directed the first few episodes of the second season because he actually wanted to direct Wild at Heart. What do you have to say about Wild at Heart potentially harming the quality of Twin Peaks? And are you trying to win the cage fight by packing the court with David Lynch fans?
Well, I'm absolutely trying to win this fight by appealing to David Lynch fans because he's a tremendously well-known filmmaker. So I can't deny that. Now, as far as Lynch leaving filming Twin Peaks and then the, I guess, subsequent lessening of quality of season 2, I can't really speak to that because I'll be honest, I started to watch Twin Peaks and then I was sidetracked, and I can't, it's one of those shows where I can't just watch an episode and then come back, weeks later, watch another episode. It's one of those, I think, kind of binge-worthy shows. But I have watched other Lynch movies and his short films, so I definitely do have a grasp. So I can't really say. I'll just be honest. I don't know, but I think that he made the right decision to get with Cage and make this movie. It's definitely a fan favorite. If you talk to people who are fans of Nicolas Cage, they've all seen Wild at Heart, and Lynch fans as well. So
Okay.
yeah, that's
Let's
really
move
all I
on
can say.
to the next film.
All right, Steve, you're up. Oh, we got to ask questions.
Yeah.
We got to ask the tough
if nobody
questions
has
here.
if nobody has any questions, I mean, I understand it's very difficult to come up to anything to challenge me with.
Okay, I'll start. You said your movie transcends time.
Yes.
Did you mean this in like a Matthew McConaughey kind of time as a flat circle sense, or was that a literal, or was that a misshot metaphor?
It's metaphorical in some ways. So the title Amos and Andrew actually comes from an early 1930s,
From a deeply
1940s.
racist,
Amos and Andy, and then it follows basically that same ideology throughout the movie, and that ideology still exists in our modern culture as well.
How is that a good thing?
It's not that it's a good thing. It's that this movie is very relevant throughout time, and it's a conversation that we can continue to have.
Can I help him just a little bit?
Yeah.
I won't allow that. I will only allow questions, quite frankly.
Alrighty, understood.
I want solely the cage fighter to help me out here. Paint me a word picture.
I think I have a question for Cage Fighter Steve, if I may.
Please.
In Amos and Andrew, there is a police officer who not only shoots at an innocent black man.
Jesus Christ, guys.
That is inside his home, I believe enjoying a nice book, but he also puts on blackface.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good God.
Cage Fighter Steve, by supporting this movie, are you saying that you are okay with blackface?
So the officer you're speaking of is Donnie, who is very clearly throughout the movie reprimanded for his poor decision making. He does not actually don it in terms of blackface, but it is for a night op because he is an ignorant idiot. And that, even by the other ignorant idiots in the community, is very well pointed out throughout the film. Thus bringing light to the fact that people don't understand what's wrong with their own ignorance.
What a funny joke.
It's gonna be hard to come back from this one, man.
I think you mentioned before that this movie, kind of like what Sean was saying, is a mix of serious social issues with satire. I don't know if you'd mentioned that. It's meant to be funny. And actually, when I watched it, I thought that it was one of the funniest movies I'd seen up to a point. But, of course, when you make a funny, socially sensitive movie that, like you said, I agree, too. I think that it's even more relevant today with some of the events that occur in this film. But Do you really think that this movie balances that well, the silly satirical with the sensitive social issues, to create something that doesn't offend in ways that it doesn't mean to, and isn't just something that is kind of tone deaf?
So I think actually they do a good job of overplaying the comical and the ridiculous aspects, and I think actually Nick Cage himself plays a huge role in that because of the ridiculousness and the way that him as an actor is never really taken fully seriously. It actually kind of helps to balance some of the what would otherwise be too extreme issues that are brought up in the movie. So yes, to answer your question, I do believe. Because I think that it brings, it's a movie that even if you watch today is still as relevant. A lot of the movies that we've watched, a lot of them are too dated to really be relevant today. But I believe this movie still holds relevance in this year.
But that's not necessarily a positive. All right.
I have one more question, if I may.
Yeah, let's finish this off with one more question.
So there's a scene in the movie where Cage's character, who is a criminal who is allowed out of prison in order to cover up this shooting of an unarmed black man, attempted. And there is a girl who Cage proceeds to hit on. And then she says that she is only 17, and he proceeds to hit on her harder. Does this movie add to the QAnon conspiracy theory? And did this movie... Did this
I'm gonna stop
movie
the questioning here.
lead to Sam Jackson's love of hentai?
We're done. Jesus Christ, doesn't really seem like you're going to come back from this one. This sounds pretty unwatchable. Great defense, great talk, guys. Good conversation. All right, next one.
All right.
So why do you think yours is the best? Why do you think yours?
In my opening statement, Your Honor, and may I add, you look lovely this evening.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. In my opening statement, I laid out for you that this is really the only movie, and this is a perfect opportunity for you because you haven't seen any of them. You've been handed all of these choices, and yes, each of these movies we've heard about tonight have had some very good moments of Nicolas Cage and his development. What we love about Nicolas Cage, yes. But none of them encompass all of those parts so wholly as Raising Arizona. We don't get to see Nicolas Cage from beginning to end as a stand-up character that might have some flaws, but we're rooting for him from beginning to end. We also get to see an array of diverse and hilarious side characters. Our time isn't wasted with clunky dialogue and things that make us feel uncomfortable for watching. There's not a lot of that. This movie's kind of very light-hearted, and it sticks with you in a good way. And that's why I think in my opening statement I also said I'm not worried about this one. I've got it in the bag. This is easily the best movie, nominated for 2 Academy Awards.
Which ones?
For Best Actor and Writer.
For Nick Cage. Okay, this sounds like a very positive experience. I'm feeling your vibe. All right, anybody else?
man.
Any questions?
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question, please.
Go ahead.
I do think that you made kind of an interesting argument earlier where you said this is the only safe choice because of the directors and also the general, I'd say, reach. That being said, we know that Nicolas Cage was restricted in his role as far as how he approached this character and
Yes.
the kinds of things he wanted to do on set, the Coen brothers would very quickly rein him in. Do you think that helped this movie or hurt it? Because I feel like a large part of Nick Cage's appeal is when Nick Cage is unleashed.
That's a fair point. Yes, that's a fair point. But also, a lot of the times in those movies where Nicolas Cage is unleashed, the movie quickly fades into obscurity. There aren't a lot of long-lasting Cage films out there. You know, when you talk to people, hey, do you like Nicolas Cage? They're like, I don't know. I like Raising Arizona and like maybe The Rock, or like some people like National Treasure because it's watchable. You know, if you go on the street and ask somebody about a Cage film and don't give them any of these films, my movie will probably be the only one anybody really knows, with maybe the exception of Wild at Heart. Yeah.
Okay, fair. I mean, it is the one I own, so
Right. It's right there waiting for you.
understood.
Steve,
Yes,
I think,
Steve, I believe you have a question.
Yeah. So you stated that this is this is the best movie, and you think this is a fantastic movie.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Does that mean that you condone kidnapping children, the abduction of children from their homes?
I'm sorry. Sorry, what?
So, not to ruin anything for you, but the movie does begin with quintuplets, 4 babies. And basically, Nicolas Cage, our hero, is a convict. He's really not allowed to have any babies. But he and his partner, he steals the baby the best diapers. He leaves the baby with like some really responsible babysitters that he trusts.
Also criminals.
Yes. Oh, yes, everybody's a criminal. That's another great thing about this movie. Everybody...
Well, except
is
for his girlfriend, who is supposed to be an officer of the law, who is clearly shirking her duties by condoning and assisting in illegal activity.
Fuck the
Bringing
police.
her down.
I will accept that as an argument,
Yeah.
or as a defense, rather.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
All right. Anything else to add, anyone? Or
I have a question that I'd like to ask.
Please.
So 2 of the movies that we've discussed, Wild at Heart and Raising Arizona, one is about Cage, a criminal, traveling with his love interest. How would you respond to saying that Raising Arizona is just...
interesting thought.
I can see how you could get there, sure, but I don't think that really holds any weight. I think if you tried to pour water into that, it would just leak out all over the ground.
I appreciate the imagery.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'd like to paint a picture.
Yes.
Honestly, and if I may just add to that, just something on the end, I think Wild at Heart seems much more like David Lynch finally got to do what he really wanted to do with Twin Peaks. There's a lot of similarities in the first season of Twin Peaks and in Wild at Heart. It almost feels like this movie exists in the same universe in ways. And that's cool, because I love David Lynch, and he's almost built like this universe or something. But I mean, don't come at me with that kind of stuff when that's hypocritical.
All right. Okay. Fair. Well, I'm certainly. I mean, I'm pretty much split in 3 directions right now. Sorry, Steve.
And Kevin hasn't even gone yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
So please, rise
Kevin.
to the occasion, my friend.
Yeah, what do you got?
Well, I'll start with I have no idea what your movie is about. You have described some very in very vague terms a lot of different things that it could be, but I don't really have a very concrete vision of anything inside the movie at all. So
I wasn't going to give you any cheesy lines. I'm opening you up to. I want to give you a lot of questions. So here you go. Here's your opportunity.
So what is it about? Here's my first one.
All right. I guess I get another round. It is about this couple that the guy he gets really busy and with his job, and his friend that he hasn't seen in a long time happens to be Nick Cage, and as soon as Nick Cage comes back into his life, he immediately it does not take very long. He steals his wife basically and starts having an affair with her, and then when she starts to get cold feet about it, he gets very aggressive about it, and that's when I referred to rape, because he pretty much rapes her eventually, and then
Great. All right.
Can I finish?
I'm sorry. Yes, please.
I haven't finished the answer. So anyway, so after that, I mean, I'm pretty far. I'm getting pretty far. So don't get worried. So while all this is going on and things are getting a little dicey with the romance, husband is kind of catching on to what's going on, and he starts to drink more. It sort of becomes an alcoholic a bit, and he just gets unstable. But he's somewhat holding it together, and she wants to come back into his life and wants to get things meshed back together and try to work it out. So they start to try to do that, and Nick Cage's character, he can't hold himself back. He's still in love, so when those two are trying to work things out, they go on a little mini vacation, and Nick Cage's character shows up and kind of gets the husband off of his rocker again, and he just completely loses his mind and ends up drowning himself in the end. This would be the husband. The husband ends up drowning himself, and they actually try to save him, but he doesn't want to be saved. So he does that, and then the two, Nick Cage's character and the wife, widow now, they end up getting very depressed and cannot handle what happened. Because it just wasn't the way they wanted it to be, because they could only see what they wanted selfishly. Didn't go about it in the right way, and they ended up causing something that they couldn't forgive themselves for. So in the end, Nick Cage's character, he ended up not going to work, not paying his bills and stuff, and then apparently was in with the wrong crowd, and he owed somebody money, and that somebody wasn't going to let it slide, so ends up pulling up in a car and goes to shoot him. But at that point in time, the widow was with Nick Cage's character and actually steps in front of the bullet and took the bullet, because I don't think she really cared. She didn't really want to live anymore. So
this sounds like a very bleak watch, especially compared to the other three films that I'm considering.
Weak?
Bleak.
Oh.
Yeah, it sounds a bit down. It sounds rather depressing. Do you think this is an entertaining watch?
I think it is entertaining in a way of it. Like I said at the beginning, that it just kind of captures your emotions and kind of takes hold and throws them all over And so, yeah, I mean, it's sort of makes you feel a little bit deep, but at the same time, Nick Cage's character is pretty outrageous in the things that he does in the movie, and it's a lot of things just remind you of other movies that he's been in. A lot of things Sean said about Vampire's Kiss really reminded me of this movie, as far as he was avoiding somebody that he owed money to. He was in a romance that he always seems to be very controlling in that sort of thing. So, yeah, just a lot of ways that he, in a little bit of a vague explanation, they sound very similar.
Does anyone have any other questions to throw at this?
Cagelord, I'd like to object. I'd like my film to not be lumped in with Zandalee.
Okay, sure. Then the last comment was stricken from the record.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything to ask or poke or explain?
What part of this makes you think that this film contends for the best film of this season?
Well, this is probably the most like real life of any of these films. All of the other films, I mean, these things happen all the time. Now, they don't happen usually, I wouldn't say they happen to the same exact characters so much, but I mean, this is just showing you life isn't all sunshine and rainbows. So,
may I ask one final question?
It teaches a good lesson.
One final question. Do you think this is a good movie?
Do I think it's a good movie?
Cool. All right.
I would say it depends on the audience. For adults, yes.
All right.
Well, it's rated R. It's rated R.
Yes, I gathered. All right. So what should happen now? I believe I take a brief recess to deliberate.
That's correct. That's correct.
All right.
And yeah, so we'll just ask you to leave the call, and we'll send you a message, or you can send us a message when you think that you've found your winner,
Absolutely.
and we'll call you back.
Okay. I will return shortly.
Thank you, sir.
Bye for now.
Bye. Wow, guys. Wow.
Well,
Way to
amen,
impress
Lord.
that- way to impress
Amen,
that
Lord.
judge.
Thank you for your help.
Yes. Praise him, praise him.
Yeah.
You
This
guys had
was,
me so nervous.
That was pretty good. I'm
Pretty
kind of
intense.
confused. I feel like I'm a little concerned that things didn't work out like I had hoped.
Yeah, dude, I think that totally blew up in your face in the best way.
My goal was to discredit all of you guys and appeal to a sense of morality, but it did not go very well.
No, it did not, but that was pretty sick.
Hey, do we have any sponsors tonight, fellas?
Yeah, our sponsor tonight is Shark Condoms.
Are they made from
you
shark, or they're for sharks?
By sharks
Yes.
for sharks.
We got Sharpies. If you need to take a break from your regular life, just pop a Sharpie.
Sponsor.
Sharpie. It helps you escape the voices.
That's a great commercial.
Yeah, and I think they should pick us up.
Do we want to talk
we're-
about any of our upcoming topics? Things that are upcoming in the next few months?
What do we have upcoming? Yeah, guys, we got a lot of stuff coming up. Season 3 is in the works, of course. Are we talking that far? We could talk about Halloween. I don't know if you guys are all aware. I would actually like to try to do a Halloween special episode where we watch the original Wicker Man and
Oh,
Nick
yeah.
Cage's Wicker Man. And we compare
Oh,
the
yeah.
two and just talk about it. It doesn't have to be quite as in-depth as our other Versus episodes, but this could be a totally just chill, relaxed, Halloween-themed episode. And Kevin, you're welcome to join us as well if you have time. But that's something I'd like to do pretty soon. We'd have to get this in the bag probably next week, into next week. So let me know.
I know on my end, I'm still working out the logistics for it, but I'm hoping to start another sub-series called Kitty Cage.
Kitty Cage.
Where we
That's
take
right.
a lot of the animated films of Cage, and we're still kind of working out the logistics of how we're going to battle them in more of a PG setting. But our hope is to start that around Christmas time with the first animated film that Cage starred in, A Christmas Carol. So hopefully by then we'll have everything worked out, and look forward to that come Christmas time.
And then we can do our sub-series, Kitty Cage Plays, where we play a live stream of the Ant Bully for Nintendo GameCube.
Wow. And we have little kids playing it.
Yeah.
We get their reactions.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So much fun to be had. And Cagelord Zack, have you decided?
Screw it. Hang on, my bow tie isn't right. I'll just take it off.
That's all right.
That's
Yes,
how difficult the decision was that you lost the tie. You stressed out.
Yes. So there was a
I
lot.
understand I won.
There was a
Just
lot
say
to
it.
consider. Many of these movies sounded deeply problematic, and it ultimately came down to of course, yes. Well, it came down to a choice of two, quite frankly. You see, while I respected quite frankly, Amos and Andrew and Zandalee both sound unwatchable. I respected the description of the David Lynch movie. I really did, and I could see myself checking that out at some point. But what I was torn between was Raising Arizona and Vampire's Kiss. Now, you see, Vampire's Kiss, the way it was described to me, seemed very memeable. It had good Cage freakouts. It had a lot of what you expect from Cage. Whereas Raising Arizona, he was up for an Oscar. It's an acclaimed Coen Brothers movie, so you get sincere good actor Cage. So it basically came down to a debate between what do you want from Nicolas Cage? Do you want outrageous silliness, or do you want actual skilled actor sincerity? And considering that you, Sean, pitched yours as having a bit of both, I think I have to give it to Vampire's Kiss.
Cagelord Zack, I'd just like to thank you. I think I don't think you'll be disappointed in your decision.
I'm excited. I'm excited to check it out. I'm excited to check out all three of the ones that I was really down to. But I will be checking out Vampire's Kiss probably tomorrow.
Wow. So then that means Vampire's Kiss is the winner and will be enshrined in our B Cage of Fame with last season's winner, Birdie. Wow. That is so amazing. Congratulations to Vampire's Kiss and all of the people credited and uncredited and even unaware that you were in it. Congratulations. It is such an accomplishment. And also, Cagelord Zack, we'd like to also extend an offer to you. You did, of course, you said you would like to watch Vampire's Kiss. And in a later episode, we'd like to actually ask you to come back and give us a brief opinion on what you thought of it and whether or not you felt that
You made a mistake.
our arguments, well, yeah, I guess, whether you made a mistake. Yeah.
That sounds lovely. That would be wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity.
Certainly. And
I think they just took it off Amazon Prime too.
Dope.
Perfect.
We like to time
And I have
as
to
well.
dig.
We're still waiting for that.
It'll be back
Criterion.
on there now.
So once again, my show is called A Cry for Help. That's a cry number 4, help. We just dropped our October episode, our election year spooktacular, where we, in fact, in that episode, my partner records an entire audiobook of The Old Man and the Sea while huffing helium. So you can check that out. You can find it wherever fine podcasts are sold. Or you can also check out my SoundCloud. I'm Thomas the Dank Engine. And we shared, I believe, all of the episodes and the audiobook there, as well as some of my personal side projects where I read Jane Eyre over an electro beat.
Interesting.
Pretty tight.
I dig it.
Thank you.
Tight.
Would you want to talk about at all a little bit of the screenplay that you wrote that we had discussed before?
Yes, it is. It's more than a screenplay, quite frankly. We have shot it. We were about 80, maybe 90% completed with shooting Prosperity Creek, my first feature film, when the pandemic hit and made it impossible for us as such a micro-budget thing to safely complete an ending. So I patched it up with some little doodle storyboards and me Tarantino style explaining what would have happened if I had money. And we sent it off to several festivals. We've been very successful so far. We actually just found out we got into Horrors for You in London, so that's cool. And just last month, we had our premiere at a drive-in in Canada.
No kidding.
Yes.
Awesome.
So check that out. Prosperity Creek coming eventually. Unfinished cut, currently going around festivals.
That's great. Yeah, I'm super excited to see.
Sorry, I didn't say what it's about. It's about how the government is secretly lizard people.
Tight.
I didn't know that was a secret.
That's an actual thing that real people believe, and I think that's very funny. So I wrote a script around that about a young woman uncovering in this affluent DC suburb that they are, in fact, shape-shifting lizards who are attempting to overthrow the United States government.
Was it hard to get Hillary Clinton for the film?
Not going down that road, man.
Oh, Shawnee. Yeah, I'm super excited to see
Stream's not
that
over.
when
He
we
can still
can.
change his mind.
And I also wanted to mention that we had met actually on a public access show.
Yes.
Monster Madhouse is what it's called. I was in costume as the gorilla, and I always enjoyed going to those shoots just for the sheer fact of meeting other interesting creative people.
Yes.
And Zach happened to be one of those people, and he had talked about this the script that I think had actually completed at that time.
Yes, I believe I would have just finished the script.
Yeah, and I just thought that was so cool, and we connected, and it's been a real pleasure having you here on our podcast.
It has been wonderful to know you, my friend.
Excellent. Yeah, and I do get kind of nervous with some of the topics we talk about. I do want people to understand that this is a comedy podcast. We want everyone to have fun. There's no sense of the themes that we talk about. That's just Nick Cage. These are the things that we experience in his films, and unfortunately, we got to throw that out there.
Understood.
Thanks, Steve.
I like how you have to disclaimer just because of me.
No,
it makes me feel proud.
If you go back and listen to some of our podcasts, it's just a lot of it is us just kind of shaking our heads trying to get through some of these movies. Time to Kill, like you said, the Ethiopian, that was in Ethiopia.
Love story.
It was set in Ethiopia, and it's just gosh, we got to talk about these things because they are stepping stones to the more popular and well-known films that Nick Cage eventually does.
Yeah.
But generally don't rape Ethiopians.
Right, yeah.
There's just a lot of rape in Cage's early films. It's really surprising. If we can make it through...
I did not consider that.
So much.
If we cannot make it through an episode, actually, almost, without talking about rape or sexual assault of some sort.
And it sounds like murder, crime, like just general
Yeah.
felonies.
very unfunny, bleak themes are brought up.
Yeah.
So that's
That
props
was
to you on
the
making a comedy show around
80s and the early 90s for you.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. So, well, thanks again, everybody. This was our
Thank you
first.
very much for having me. It has been an honor.
Thanks. Yeah, this is our first real live stream, our first real cage fight. So I think it's been a success. We got Vampire's Kiss to win. Not Wild at Heart. I'm a little broken up, but I'll admit I like Vampire's Kiss too, so I can live with it. Oh well. Zandalee didn't win. Too bad, Kevin. But thanks for trying. Yeah. You're welcome. All right. And yeah, to all you out there who tuned in, thank you so much. This is Late Night Cage Fight, and check us out at nickcagefight.com. Listen to our podcast, support us however you can, and we got more stuff coming. So yeah, just stay in the loop, and we'll keep feeding you on our Facebook page. And take care.